afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Portland's Friday Forum. Today is Friday, March 23rd, and I welcome you all to the state's premier civic affairs event. I'm Melody Rose, the president of the club, and I would like to welcome members and guests alike. Those of you who are here in the room at the Governor Hotel, those of you listening on OPB or KBPS radio, and those watching on Community Media's CityNet 30. Today, we welcome Multnomah County Chair Jeff Cogan, who will offer his annual State of the County address. But first, a few announcements. City Club's corporate and media partners are essential to the vitality and the sustainability of all of the club's many activities. I'd like to offer a generous thanks to our media partners, including Oregon Business Magazine. I would also like to extend our deepest appreciation to the Friday Forum corporate sponsors, Bank of the Cascades, Miller Nash, Perkins Coie, Stoll Reeves, and The Standard. We are very grateful for your support. We could not do this work without you. And as always, if you would like to join this august group in supporting the club's mission, please do see our staff in the foyer behind you, where they can talk to you about sponsoring the club's activities. In addition to Friday Forum, City Club, of course, offers events throughout our broader community. Portlanders love their pets, and on Wednesday, March 28th, the club's new Leaders Council will offer an opportunity for people of all ages to tour the Dove Lewis Animal Hospital. We hope you'll join us. And then on April 8th, the Agra Committee invites you to enjoy the play In the Red and Brown Water at the Portland Playhouse, which will be followed by a talkback session with the actors themselves. Members and friends of City Club can receive a 20% discount on their tickets. Learn more about these and other programs at our website, pdxcityclub.org. Following today's talk, we will be welcoming City Club members to the microphone for our traditional question and answer period with the speaker. In addition, we invite all audience members to look for the index cards on your tables, write down your questions, and when I ask for them, please hold them high so that the staff can collect them for you, and I'll read at least one from the microphone. I'm sure you will all have good questions for our speaker. And now to our program. Multnomah County provides essential services, from primary and mental health care to public safety, designed to keep community members healthy, safe, and strong. The need for these critical services in our community continues to rise as residents get battered by unemployment, foreclosures, and an ongoing tough economy. So how will the county thrive in its mission to help people during these very difficult budget times? Today, in his State of the County address, Multnomah County Chair Jeff Cogan will outline innovative and collaborative solutions that attempt to address these very deep and ongoing local needs. Jeff Cogan moved to Portland in 1992 and founded the Portland Pretzel Company, the city's first certified organic bakery. He moved on to serve as communications director for the Multnomah Commission on Children and Families and as board president for Hands On Greater Portland. In 2003, Jeff was named Chief of Staff to City Commissioner Dan Saltzman, where he played key roles in creating the Children's Investment Fund and building the Rosa Parks Elementary School in North Portland. He was first elected to the Multnomah County Commission in 2006, and in 2010, he won election to a 4-year term as Multnomah County Chair. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming today's speaker, Jeff Cogan.
Thank you. Thanks, Melody. And thanks all of you for coming inside on the first nice day in a while. I have to say, when I saw the sun shining this morning, I thought I might have a half-empty room. So it's great to be back at the City Club to get to talk about the state of our county. Since my first State of the County speech last year, I've experienced a lot. As a father, as a son, as a local leader, and as an American, all of which have helped me to focus on what I want to talk with you about today. On a personal note, I want to take a moment to thank everyone who reached out to me and my family after my father's death last month. Losing my father, my role model, and my mentor was devastating for me and for my family. But hearing from so many of you gave us extra shoulders to carry our sadness. And on behalf of my family, I just can't thank you enough. Losing my father forced me to think long and hard about what's really important in life. And these thoughts have been brought into stark relief as our community has continued to struggle with the ongoing devastation caused by the economic collapse caused by Wall Street. We face some very troubling realities. That right here in Multnomah County, nearly half of our school children qualify for free and reduced price lunch, a widely accepted measure of poverty. Just think about that for a moment. Half our kids. That the gap between the rich and the poor has grown to a point so obscene that it would have been unthinkable just decades ago. That the financial speculators who brought our economy to the brink of ruin are once again earning multi-million-dollar bonuses, while ordinary Americans struggle as never before. No doubt about it, it's been a very challenging year. Made even more so for me personally by the fact that I recently turned 50 years old. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like getting a solicitation to join the AARP to get you thinking deep thoughts. Now, when any of us thinks about where we thought we'd be at the start and where we are now, it can seem like a long, strange trip. But here's what I do know now, more clearly than ever in this past year, that Multnomah County is a truly special place with an unparalleled quality of life, and that I am right where I want to be as chairman of this amazing county. Multnomah County is where our community's values of equity, sustainability, and compassion for the most vulnerable among us are acted upon every day, because we're at the forefront of fighting to give life to these values, even as we continue to struggle through the hardest times our community has faced in decades. I'm proud to be working with all of you to provide real community solutions to the challenges that we face. Unfortunately, in America today, there are powerful forces that are working to undermine the very notion of community, using name-calling and divisiveness that obscure their true motives. Community is not a popular word on the artificial world of talk radio or in the worst corners of the internet, where anonymous demagogues divide us into the government and the people. And community is in short supply in Washington, D.C., where the bickering and squabbling is so bad it brings to mind the petty squabbling of high school cliques, and where compromise, an essential part of governing, has itself become a dirty word. And sadly, even in the Oregon legislature, grassroots community solutions can often be blocked by powerful special interests. Just look at how corporate lobbyists last year killed the statewide effort to stop the sale of baby bottles and sippy cups made with the toxic chemical bisphenol A. When they can't even agree to stop selling toxic baby bottles, it's no wonder that all of us are frustrated. Put simply, we have good reason to ask where our community's values are actually reflected. But I started my remarks today by saying that I wanted to talk about the state of our county. And I emphasize the word our because it's here in the county where our government has proven nimble enough and responsive enough to reflect local values in crafting solutions to today's challenges. And if you go home from this forum today with only one message, please let it be this: there is no better reflection of our community and our values than our county. Let me say that again. There is no better reflection of our community and our values than our county. At Multnomah County, we care for our most vulnerable people, whether that's folks struggling with mental illness, a homeless family seeking shelter, or a child only seeking a safe place to go after school. At the county, we work to protect all residents so they're healthy and secure in their neighborhoods. This is a place where we're proud to be a leader in making our planet more sustainable. And this is a government that's committed to keeping equity at the forefront of all of our decisions, so that every one of the 735,000 incredibly diverse people who live in Multnomah County can be healthy, safe, and prosperous. Ambitious goals? Absolutely. Are we there yet? No way. but I'm happy to report that the state of our county at the start of 2012 is strong, and that we're well positioned to continue our innovative efforts to make this the best possible place to live and work. Now, before I outline the changes and challenges and opportunities we face in the year ahead, let me take a moment to thank the people who help this county make progress every day. Let's start with our biggest strength, our incredible employees, whose great work disproves the simpletons who bash public employees at every turn. Our employees are the glue that holds this community together. Let me illustrate this by telling you about just one of these outstanding public servants. Her name is Melissa Greeny, and she works in our Aging and Disability Service Division, putting in place safety net services for seniors and other vulnerable people. She's so good at figuring out creative solutions for our community that her managers refer to her as the fixer. Sounds kind of ominous, but I think it's a compliment. Melissa's supervisors describe her as passionate about helping clients get the support they need when a crisis hits, but she routinely takes it a step further. In addition to making personal connections with the men and women she helps, Melissa's great at finding ways to partner with other organizations to stitch together the resources needed to help people. Here's a recent example. A military veteran in his 70s had been living in a nursing home after falling and breaking both legs. As he healed, he wanted to get his own place so he could live independently. But he didn't know where to go, and he didn't know where to turn. And that's when Melissa stepped in. She worked diligently until she found this veteran a place where he could live on his own. And once she found him a home, she worked with community partners to get him a bed and some other basic furniture. Today, he's living independently, making him much happier and saving the taxpayers up to $7,000 a month on nursing home care, all thanks to Melissa. And what makes me proudest of Melissa and the county employees she represents is her attitude. Melissa says, and I quote, "Everyone knows that resources are almost non-existent these days, but there's something about getting something done, even in the face of that, that's gratifying. When you look on a person's face after you make something okay, it doesn't get any better than that." She's right, and caring people don't get any better than Melissa. And I'm happy that Melissa was able to join us today to represent the incredibly dedicated employees who make Multnomah County great. They bring real meaning to the phrase public servant by working hard for all of us and with little acclaim. And we owe them all our thanks, our appreciation, and our applause. Thank you, Melissa. If you could raise your hands so we know where you are. She's kind of shy, but she's awesome. Thank you, Melissa. I'll say it again. There is no better reflection of this community and our values than the work that's being done by the people in our county. And then there are my elected colleagues on the Board of County Commissioners who continue to create impressive accomplishments for our community. Here are just a few recent examples. There is simply no way that we would have just broken ground on the long overdue replacement of the Selwood Bridge without the strong leadership and persistence of Commissioner Deborah Kafoury. Thank you, Deborah. When it comes to finding jobs for our young people or supporting emerging small businesses, there is no more effective advocate in this community than Commissioner Loretta Smith. Thank you, Loretta. Commissioner Judy Shiprack is bringing the community together to turn the unused Wickman Building, an old Carnegie Library in southeast Portland, into a desperately needed new community center. A win for the county and a win for the neighborhood. Thank you, Judy. And Commissioner Diane McKeel should be proud that her strong leadership has ensured that the badly needed new East County Courthouse will open on time and on budget next month. Thank you, Diane. I'm also fortunate to work with Sheriff Dan Staton. In addition to working hard to keep our community safe, Sheriff Staton has been a leader in making our jails the most sustainable in the nation, saving hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars while doing it. Thank you, Sheriff Staton. And Auditor Steve March is a constant watchdog over all of our efforts to make sure that we're walking our talk when it comes to doing things smarter and more effectively. Thank you, Steve. I'd also like to acknowledge our partners at the City of Portland. Commissioners Nick Fish and Amanda Fritz are here with us today, along with Mayor Sam Adams. The city and the county make their greatest progress when we work together. And that's just what we've been doing, from the Selwood Bridge to the new Mental Health Crisis Center to the Gateway Center for Domestic Violence. But there's no better example of our collaborative spirit that we've been building in the last year than two recent breakthroughs in urban renewal. Last year, I spoke to you at length about my concerns over urban renewal, sequestering huge amounts of tax base for as long as 5 decades without accounting for the trade-offs to other vital services that lose funding. Those problems are significant and real. But in the past year, the city has worked with the county to begin to address these concerns. First, with the new Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative, which the mayor and PDC developed in close consultation with the county. This initiative relies on very small-scale urban renewal areas in business districts in long-neglected parts of East Portland. This addresses the county's concerns because of its focus on neighborhood economic development as a tool to fight poverty and inequality, and because of its use of small, targeted, time-limited investments. Better yet, this new initiative enlists neighborhoods to be active participants in their own revitalization, empowering local residents to help shape their own future. This is the sort of new thinking that can help urban renewal make sense for our community in the 21st century. The newest partnership is found in the proposed Education District, which seeks to bolster both our educational and economic development by allowing Portland State University to realize its potential as a world-class urban university. Portland State's continued success is vital to our community, and this urban renewal district sets the stage for the university to flourish. But it does so in ways that support Multnomah County government and the entire community by creating an exciting new collaboration between the university and the county. The district will help build a badly needed new home for the county's Department of Human Services that will lower our operating costs and help us improve our services to the community. But even more exciting, the new building will be co-locate county services with Portland State departments that are relevant and that can assist the county in such areas as research and evaluation of our programs, while providing fertile ground for PSU students and faculty to advance their work. This will enrich our entire community. So I want to thank Mayor Adams and members of council for including Multnomah County in the process, for innovating, and for listening. And I know Portland State's President Vim Vivell is here with us today. Vim, I'd like to thank you for your leadership and your partnership. I know we have this agreement worked out, but there's just one more detail that occurs to me. You know Portland State's motto that's written across Southwest Broadway? I believe it reads, "Let knowledge serve the city." Well, I think this new partnership means it's time to update and broaden that mission. How about "Let knowledge serve the county"? I think it's got a nice ring if you ask me. What do you think? Let the record reflect that Vim is smiling and nodding. I think that's an agreement. Now, before I outline the challenges and opportunities we face in the coming year, let me briefly look back at some of the successes we've had in the past year. I know you won't be surprised to hear that in these tough economic times, demand for our critical services is higher than ever, while our ability to provide these services is limited by tight budgets. Yet despite these challenges, we've made significant progress over the last 12 months in Multnomah County. Doing our work on mental health, this year we collaborated with the city, the state, and community nonprofits to open the badly needed new Mental Health Crisis Assessment and Treatment Center, a cost-effective place for people in a mental health crisis to get care without the huge cost of going to a hospital or the indignity and danger of going to jail. During each person's stay, professionals work together to stabilize them, at the same time creating connections to community resources and creating follow-up treatment plans. The result? an estimated 850 of our neighbors who have a much, much better chance of getting well each year and of staying out of jail, the hospital, and the headlines. The Crisis Assessment Center is a clear example of a community response to a community need. Here's another example we should all be proud of. Doing our work to protect our community's health, this year we overcame the lobbying by corporate special interests that stalemated Salem and became the first county in Oregon to restrict the sale of products containing the toxic chemical bisphenol A. That chemical is often found in products like baby bottles and sippy cups, despite the fact that safer alternatives exist. And bisphenol A can leach from those bottles into what we all eat and drink. Numerous independent scientific studies have linked low-level exposures to bisphenol A with disruptions of our body's hormones, as well as heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and reproductive problems. And the risk is greatest for young children. Scary stuff. But our county health department analyzed the potential dangers and crafted a smart, carefully targeted solution. And our community came out in force, urging us to take action locally. And I'm proud to say that our board responded with a unanimous vote to protect our community by limiting the sale of reusable beverage containers used by infants, children, and adults that contain bisphenol A. I want to thank my board colleagues for standing up against powerful special interests and protecting our community from this toxic chemical. Thank you. Once again, a community need, a community response. That's also what's driven one of our big efforts to ensure all our residents have a pathway to prosperity, an incredibly important challenge at a time when economic recovery remains tenuous. County Economic Development Director John Talaska is helping to meet this challenge by overseeing a new microloan program that leverages $150,000 from the county to create up to $1 million available for small loans for local small businesses. This program followed a roundtable for young entrepreneurs held by Commissioner Smith last year, where the most frequent concern heard was the difficulty small businesses had in getting loans. Thanks to this exciting new microloan program, small businesses, especially those headed by immigrants, women, and people of color, will have better access to the capital they need to expand. But it's not just loans. Our program matches small businesses with partners who can provide a helping hand, with technical assistance like accounting classes, and support like mentorship from successful local small business owners. As a former small business owner, I know that this combination of supports can help small businesses to achieve their potential and to create jobs for our community. The story of Julie Derrick, the owner of JD's Shoe Repair on Alberta Street, illustrates this well. Julie entered the cobbler trade a few years ago and started her own business in 2009. The business was successful, and Julie soon had more customers than she could handle by herself. But her tiny space offered no room for expansion, and expanding required capital she didn't have. Now, thanks to a $9,000 microloan, technical assistance, and mentorship, she has a new location that's 3 times the size of her old space, and she now has 5 employees. As Julie puts it, her business is one of those essential pieces of a neighborhood that allow residents to take care of things close to home. And her business helps people save money in a very Portland way, by caring for what they have instead of spending more to buy something new. That's a great success for Julie and for the neighborhood. Unfortunately, Julie has the flu and couldn't join us today. But please join me in congratulating her and all of the small businesses that are working with our microloan program to make our community stronger and more vital. Now, one of our biggest challenges this past year has been the long overdue replacement of the Selwood Bridge. When I came before you last year, I said the only viable path forward was through partnership. How true that turned out to be. In the wake of multiple challenges, we responded by collaborating with our partners in the city, state, and federal government, even after one of our original partners, a certain nearby county who shall remain unnamed, unfortunately drove the project into reverse for a bit. But together, the partners who remained persevered and persevered and persevered to make this badly needed project a fully funded reality. And I'm very happy to be before you today with work well underway on a brand new Selwood Bridge, that will make it easier and safer for everybody in this community to get around. The Mental Health Crisis Center, restrictions on bisphenol A, microloans supporting emerging small businesses, finally rebuilding the Selwood Bridge. What a year. It's hard not to get pumped up. For me, anyway. And all these accomplishments have one other thing in common besides getting me pumped up. Each is a clear example of how our community can do great things, even when times are tough, when we all pull together. Just wait to see what we can do when times are good. And I might also add that each accomplishment is also a terrific example of the value of local solutions to local challenges. I truly hope that our friends in the legislature, and I know some of you are out here today, will keep that in mind whenever special interests and lawmakers from outside our area raise the prospect of preempting our local governments from acting to meet our community's needs. Multnomah County is a place where all of us own responsibilities for creating solutions, and it's a place where we've proven that we can find solutions when we're allowed to. Now, just because we made progress in 2011 doesn't mean we can relax in 2012. It's been said that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Turns out it's also needed to maintain a vital community. Our efforts at Multnomah County begin with getting our own house in order, becoming more innovative and efficient with limited resources. That means looking differently at how we do business and questioning long-held assumptions. For example, our recent decision to encourage the redevelopment of the Morrison Bridgehead. This surplus county property, at the west end of the Morrison Bridge in downtown Portland is now surface parking lots and has been for decades. It's been more than 50 years since the county acquired the property to serve as the staging ground for the construction of the bridge. Yet for some reason, the county just kept holding on to it. And that property, one of the landmark gateways into downtown Portland, has been identified since 1970 as a prime redevelopment site and potential location for a destination attraction. Our board acted unanimously last year to tap that potential by beginning negotiations to sell the property. The ultimate goal is for our community to get a downtown office building with space for a projected 1,000 plus jobs, and for a Portland public food market with 250 jobs, but with also creating an exciting destination for locals and tourists alike attracted to our famous and vibrant local food scene. Proceeds from the $10 million purchase price would go toward a capital fund dedicated to fixing or replacing our aging downtown courthouse. This is a project that's responsive to our community's needs, brings in badly needed revenue for the county, and would help keep downtown keep vital while stimulating economic development. And the property would go back on the tax rolls, providing ongoing funding for the county, the city, and our local public schools. I'm happy to report today that just this week we reached a tentative agreement to sell the Morrison Bridgehead in a deal that would meet every one of the goals I just identified. A truly exciting prospect for our community. Now, becoming more innovative and efficient also means essential behind-the-scenes work, like switching the county to strategic sourcing by this summer. In plain English, what that means is that we can close a warehouse that we've been using for more than 50 years and have supplies delivered directly to our employees' work sites. This will save the county almost $1 million a year with no reduction in services to our community. It's also other unsexy stuff, like continuing to fine-tune our spans of control to make sure we aren't management-heavy. Our management span of control work is on track to lower our cost of doing business by almost $3 million a year, with more to come. Now, I grant you that strategic sourcing and spans of control may sound a bit wonkish, may even make your eyes glaze over a bit. I get it. But together, these efforts will free up millions of dollars that now go to back-office administration. And those dollars, in turn, can go directly towards providing vital services for our community. That is worthy of applause. Think of these efforts as being similar to what families go through during tough times. Tight budgets force you to be innovative and stretch your limited resources. We're certainly being more creative and working smarter when it comes to sustainability. Our county is a place where sustainability is not a buzzword. Here, sustainability means a climate action plan that has led us to game-changing energy efficiency work. The county's investments in energy efficiency so far are saving us $1.3 million annually through reduced energy costs, with more projects lined up in the years ahead. And every dollar not spent heating or lighting our buildings is a dollar available for helping people. Our sustainability efforts have also led us to some very innovative ways to meet our community's needs. For example, our effort to promote local agriculture lined up perfectly with our need to help hungry people in our community when we created the Crops Farm, which uses surplus county land to grow food for the food bank. Last year, we expanded on that model, opening our new Restitution Garden, a place where juvenile offenders go and they work to grow food, which is later sold with the proceeds benefiting the victims of their crime, all the while teaching the young people valuable life skills. How cool is that? And the exciting thing is that once innovation becomes part of an organization's DNA, it just keeps building. Success begetting more success, and that's what we're building here. I'm also proud to live in a county where equity has real meaning. Our community cannot advance while leaving anybody behind. And moving forward requires an honest admission that too often in the past, governments would never ask the tough questions of how to help people who've never been invited to the table or told there was no place available at the table. The damage was great. And looking at report after report that shows worse outcomes in our community for communities of color, we must all declare once and for all that this is unacceptable. And we must all work together to reduce these disparities in health, unemployment, graduation rates, income. One way we're doing that at Multnomah County is by expanding on the exciting Equity Lens tool developed by our county health department. This tool allows us to view investments we're considering through the lens of their impact on making our community more equitable. This has already affected our funding decisions in the health department. For example, the recent move to fund an aggressive breastfeeding promotion program for African American mothers, whose low breastfeeding rates causes significant health problems for their children. I'm committed to bringing the Equity Lens to all of Multnomah County's investments in the coming years. I really believe that to become a truly progressive community, no challenge is more important than this. I'm also proud to live in a county that's on the cutting edge of keeping the public safe, but in a smart way. One example is our new community healing initiative for combating gang violence. Any act of violence is one too many, but each is especially painful when they touch our young men and women. As the father of 2 children, I can only imagine the pain felt by a family that loses a child. But stopping youth and gang violence requires more than just suppression and arrests. It requires prevention and intervention to break what's too often a generational cycle of violence in some families. The county's new approach recognizes that reality and responds by intervening in that cycle, by stepping up our focus on the generational roots of gangs and working with the entire families of young people affiliated with gangs. This new approach has shown very promising results. We're also working to fight crime by giving people re-entering our community after serving time in jail or prison the support they need to be successful. I'd like to introduce you to one young man who's working hard and finding success at re-entering our community as a productive neighbor with a job and a future. Corey Thurman. Corey, you want to raise your hand? Corey's right up there. Corey Thurman would be the first. Let's start with applause. Why not? Just can't have too much of it. We're embarrassing the guy. We might as well support him along the way. Now, Corey would be the first person to tell you that his life was at a crossroads after his release from a second prison stint for forgery and fraud. But thanks to our Department of Community Justice and its nonprofit partners, Corey got a helping hand through some innovative new reentry programs. Bridges to Change helped Corey with housing and other services, while Volunteers of America provided treatment for substance abuse. Together, the result of that collaboration is that at age 27, Corey is on a completely different path than his previous life of addiction and crime. Corey's been clean and sober since April 19th, 2009, and he's been employed full-time at Bridgetown Bakery for the last 18 months as a line lead and a warehouse worker. In Corey's own words, and I quote, "This is the best place I've ever been in my life." That's a tribute to him and to the work done every day by the county's Department of Community Justice and our partners to give every offender coming back to the community the best possible chance for success. I'm very pleased that Corey was able to join us today. His inspirational story deserves a round of applause. And I was talking with Corey before we had lunch today, and he said that one of the things that really makes him happy is that now he can serve as a role model for other people who are facing the same challenges and who can see that it's possible to succeed. And yes, that's just what you're doing, Corey. Thank you. This year, the county is also on track to achieve geographic equity in the delivery of justice. For decades, our residents in East County have had to suffer the indignity of having their only court facilities be cramped, leaky, and vastly inadequate. This has been an embarrassment for our community and an insult to the taxpayers in East County. Happily, this will change in coming weeks when we open the beautiful new East County Courthouse in the Rockwood neighborhood of Gresham next month. This courthouse will provide not only better facilities, but a much-needed shot in the arm to a struggling neighborhood that deserves more support than it often receives. I'm proud that this investment will help ensure that all county residents have access to justice, no matter where they live. And thank you, Diane McKeel, for your leadership on this project. I'm also proud to live in a county that cares so deeply for our most vulnerable residents. I believe that a community can best be measured by how we help the most vulnerable among us. So how do we make sure that we walk our talk of caring for vulnerable people? We walk it by helping the more than 1,300 families and almost 500 boys and girls who are homeless in our county. We've responded with the highly successful Rapid Rehousing Initiative championed by Commissioner Kafoury to quickly move homeless families and children out of shelters and into homes. We walk our talk by providing opportunities for people with developmental disabilities to maintain lives of dignity by training and assisting them to do work and earn money to help support themselves, and by supporting seniors and living independently rather than needing costly nursing home care. And we walk it by helping abused women and their children at our Gateway Center for Domestic Violence. At Multnomah County, we live our community values through social workers who help our oldest residents and those with disabilities, through sheriff's deputies who keep our communities safe by patrolling our streets and running our jails, and district attorneys who ensure that dangerous criminals face consequences for their actions, through our Sun School program that provides kids the support they need to thrive in more than 60 schools countywide now, through engineers who make our bridges safe, and animal shelter workers who care for dogs and cats and even the occasional rabbit. All those programs, and many others provided by Multnomah County, are essential gauges of what our community values. There's one more exciting new measure on the horizon that will be a real dramatic gauge for our community's values. I'm talking about the healthcare transformation that's happening in our state to improve the delivery of healthcare for people served by the Oregon Health Plan. These changes carry huge potential for improvements in our county, which is the state's largest safety net health provider. The state is looking at our county clinics as models for the coordinated care they aim to put in place statewide. And our county, in partnership with Washington and Clackamas counties, see, we don't hold grudges, is taking a leadership role in working through the nuts and bolts of this groundbreaking transformation that will prove a model for the rest of the nation. At its heart, this effort is designed to change incentives that our healthcare system has by focusing on keeping people healthy rather than spending a fortune trying to heal them once they've gotten sick. Multnomah County is ahead of the curve already. We're turning these values into realities every day through our network of health clinics serving low-income people throughout our community, like our new health center in Rockwood. One regular visitor at the Rockwood Health Center is a man we're happy to join us today, and his story is a great example of the coordinated health care we're working to provide so taxpayer dollars are spent wisely to keep people healthy. Mo Na, Mr. Na is right over there. You want to just say hi? That's Mo. Mo Na's journey to Multnomah County began when he and his family fled his native Burma. In Thailand, at a refugee camp, he lost his sight after police shot him in the face during a confrontation with the camp's refugees. Mr. Na settled in East County in 2007, trailed by diabetes so debilitating he literally could not get out of bed. He faced a grim future and massive, unmanageable medical bills. But the team of professionals at the Rockwood Health Center worked together to address the entire spectrum of his health needs. They coordinate his care, calling him to remind him about appointments and to monitor his blood sugar and ensure he's taking his medication. This proactive approach has stabilized his health, improved his life, and kept him out of the hospital. Today he's thriving. In the words of his daughter, he's at number 1. Congratulations. I think that's worth a round of applause. I'll say it again, there is no better reflection of this community and our values than our county. Now, before I close, I want to talk about one of our most beloved and most threatened examples of our community's strength, Multnomah County's best-in-the-nation library system. Walk into the beautiful historic Central Library, just a few blocks from where we sit today, or any of the library's 18 branches anchoring neighborhoods throughout this community. And there's a good chance you'll see children sitting crisscross applesauce, listening to a librarian read Goodnight Moon. You'll probably see adults using the library's public computers to polish their resumes, or the free internet service to look for a job. You may see a class being offered on developing your research skills, or a group of recent immigrants learning English. The library is a gathering place, an educational resource, a much-used meeting facility, a neighborhood anchor. Oh, and they have books you can borrow. In fact, the Multnomah County Library has the second highest circulation in the country. There's no doubt about it. We love our libraries. And yet, despite this, and all of the community benefits of a library open to all, the Cascade Policy Institute recently released a policy paper and PR blitz that called for the library to privatize or switch over to a system of direct user fees. Benjamin Franklin must be spinning in his grave. Now, I disagree completely with the Institute's suggestions, but they are valuable in one sense. They set out in the starkest possible terms what those of us who deny the value of community would do if they could. They would take us backward to the dark days of Herbert Hoover, when those who could afford to get basic community services got them, and those who couldn't afford it didn't. That's the antithesis of progress, and far out of touch with our community's values. I want all children, and when I say all children, I mean all children, to have access to the life-changing inspiration that comes from reading, and the amazing programs and supports offered by our library. I want all adults to have access to the job support and community assistance programs accessible at our library. I want all seniors to know that they can get books to read even when they're sick and housebound. I want our libraries to serve their role as the modern commons in our community, a place where a poor man from Rockwood can sit next to a rich woman from the West Hills and discuss this year's Everybody Reads book. Making the library a private service, only available to those who can afford it, yet another amenity out of reach to those at the bottom of the economic ladder, is a travesty. That's not the kind of community I want to live in, and I suspect it's not the kind of community you want to live in. But while the county is not about to privatize our libraries, we can't take for granted that our libraries will be able to provide these services and programs that I've been describing. That's because more than 2/3 of our library's total budget comes from a temporary levy that expires this June. If we fail to renew that levy, our library system will be devastated by massive cuts. And once we pass that levy, reestablishing the temporary safety net under our libraries, we need to begin the difficult and long overdue work of creating a stable long-term funding source to ensure that our libraries are protected now and into the future. Yes, thank you. Our libraries need us, and we need our libraries. If we want to keep our libraries open, to keep the heart of our community pumping, We need to all pull together to make that happen. It won't happen by itself. It's up to us. There's no more urgent piece of business this year. It's really, in a very fundamental sense, a time for this community to decide who we are, what we value, and what kind of future we want. The challenge ahead for the library won't be easy. None of the challenges we face in the year ahead will be easy, but nothing that's worthwhile ever is. After all, nothing that we've achieved up to this point has been easy. And yet we've made great progress as a county when it comes to sustainability, equity, public safety, and caring for the most vulnerable among us. What we've learned along the way is that it's up to each of us, and yet it can't be any one person's battle alone. We're a community, and together, driven by a passion for true progress, we can continue to be a special place. Elizabeth Warren recently made headlines in her senatorial race in Massachusetts by declaring that, quote, "Nobody in this country got rich on their own. Nobody." She went on to explain that a community must stand together because it's all of us who band together as a society that invest in basic infrastructure, education, maintaining public safety, and that those basic building blocks are the essential ingredients for successful individuals as well as for successful communities. We understand that here. Everything that we've achieved to date has been the result of people coming together to build this community. That's what happens every day in our county. And that's what allows me to say with full confidence one final time, there is no better reflection of our community and our values than our county. I'm honored to be chairman of our county. I look forward to working with each of you to build our county into the truest possible reflection of our values, because together we can make this community great for this generation and the ones to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Kogan. Your passion for our county is quite evident. And now, if you have written a question on an index card, now is the time to raise it up high so the staff can come around and collect it from you, and it can be part of our dialogue. The first question for our speaker, as always, is from our Friday Forum host. Today's host is Governor Dean Funk. Dean is Manager of Local Government Affairs for Portland General Electric and serves on the boards of Travel Portland and the East Metro Economic Alliance. He's been a City Club member since 1992. Dean.
So it's fair to say that Multnomah County has confronted a declining budget resources since long before the recession began. While other governments, certainly Portland, enjoyed relative stability and growing resources, the county has been reducing services for nearly a decade. Your predecessor, Ted Wheeler, said that his first priority was to regain lost public trust, presumably in the wake of the so-called Mean Girls regime, and asked the public to support the programs that create a stable and secure society. So the question is, has the county regained public trust? And if so, if you had the opportunity to ask voters to approve one measure, with the exception of libraries, what would it be? What would it be and when?
So first to the initial question, which is, has the county regained public trust? I don't think that that's necessarily a point that you get to and then is therefore a static place. I do feel like we've made tremendous progress over the last 5 years. I think that there was a time when the county was viewed by many people as a laughingstock. And I would say right now that is not the case. I hope it's the case that people agree with me that Multnomah County is working credibly, working well together. I work very well with my colleagues on the board. And it's my hope to continue to do that, because I do believe that that's an ongoing challenge, because frankly, we're also in a context where there are many governments, including federal, state, other municipalities, and people in the community don't necessarily focus on just one. When there's challenges at the federal government level, it makes it harder to have trust in government. When there's challenges at the state government level, it makes it harder to have trust in government. So we need to all do our part And I feel good about where Multnomah County is, but I don't feel we can take anything for granted. So now the next harder part of your question, if I could put something on there to raise money for any one subject other than the libraries, what would it be? Gosh, we have so many needs, because you're right. Actually, Dean, in your question you said the county's been cutting its budget for almost a decade. It's actually been 12 years. So we are in tough situations, and I don't think I'm making news by saying the budget we'll be releasing in the next month will have additional cuts. We've cut to the bone in so many different areas that I would say generally where we need to invest is in prevention and moving upstream on things. I would say that the areas that have the highest need would probably be mental health and alcohol and drug treatment. That might actually be where I would first focus if we were going to look for additional resources. But there's plenty of other needs too.
As always, members are invited to the microphone to ask their question. Asking questions at the Friday Forum microphone is a privilege of club membership. So before asking your question, please identify yourself as a club member and keep your question to under 30 seconds, or you will see the infamous City Club question mark. Also, I'll be sure to invite questions from the index cards, and we'll read at least one of those. Thank you.
Promise King, club member. Chair Cogan, you took a system that was convoluted, burdened by mediocrity and all that laziness. You took it and streamlined it within 3 years. You combined all the necessary idiocies, and you took that away and brought innovation to the systems.
I like this question.
You did this given the constraints that you're facing right now in the county. Is it as a result of necessity, or this is your culture, your value as an elected official?
Well, I mean, it has been necessity, I will say, because the county has declining resources, and we're forced to make things more efficient, and we're forced to make do. I mean, I guess we're not forced to. We could do the other thing, which would be just, the easy but really dumb choice of just cutting services to the community again and again and again. But we don't want to do that, and so the only alternative then is to try and operate more efficiently. But if you're asking if it's also part of my personal culture too, it is kind of. I'm kind of cheap. I don't like to waste money, and so when we view the actions of our government, I come to it with the perspective of someone who expects efficiency and demands efficiency whenever I can. So maybe it's a combination. Next.
Thank you. My name is Kristen Funk Tracy, City Club member and social worker. And you guys, you've done a tremendous job. I'm really impressed with the long list of accomplishments and the wonderful things that you're doing. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about what the county is doing in regards to improving the state of affordable housing or providing more affordable housing for the low-income families. Thank you.
Well, when it comes to affordable housing, the county has a different role than the city does. The city's role is actually the bricks and sticks part of it, building buildings. The county's role is more around providing services. And so what we're really focusing on is ensuring that people don't become homeless. And so we have short-term rent assistance that we provide people. We also, once we get people into housing, we've learned that, particularly for folks who are dealing with mental illness or alcohol and drug problems and those kinds of needs, or special needs of other sorts, you can't just put them into a housing unit and expect them to be able to make it. They need supportive services. And that's one of the things the county is really good at providing, along with our community partners, the supports people need in order to be able to stay and be successful in their housing environment. And then we also do have some innovative programs like Bridges to Housing, which works to help make sure that families who are facing homelessness get housed, and that's been a really big success. Thank you.
Let me take one from the tables, if I may. What do you see the county doing for veterans?
Well, we do have, the county is the place that is one of the places that state dollars come to help veterans get assistance. So we have a veteran service office. The main thing that we do, we don't necessarily operate independent programs for veterans as much as we connect veterans into the services that they're entitled to. One of the big challenges that veterans have is they don't necessarily know what's available for them through the federal government, so we help connect them to federal programs that are there, and then we also work to connect them into other programs that we have that are appropriate to them. I think, Melissa Greeny's story that I told you about is a classic example of that. It wasn't necessarily a veteran service program, but she helped a veteran who was facing challenges become able to live independently, and that's typical of how we help veterans.
Yeah, Sam Chase, City Club member, and I'm also a candidate for Metro Council, so it won't be a surprise I have a regional question. Having struggled with the Sellwood Bridge, do you have recommendations on how we can have a better regional long-term strategy for managing our transportation?
Easy one, huh? Well, one of the challenges that's really been upsetting in terms of dealing with the Sellwood Bridge is that there are certain transportation assets that are truly regional in use. I mean, the Sellwood Bridge, for example, a majority of the users are not starting and stopping their trips in Multnomah County, many from Clackamas, some from Washington. So it's a regional transportation asset. But historically, it's always been the case that, investments in transportation otherwise were all about where it's located. And so because it was in Multnomah County, it was very easy for people to say it's your problem. Well, the truth of the matter is everyone in the region suffers when any given community is unable to maintain infrastructure that benefits the entire community. We've made progress. Although we have challenges, we're ahead of a lot of other parts of the country because we at least have a functioning regional government and we try to look at these things regionally. And I think that we need to continue to do that. There's no magic solution. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is human nature is such that people would really like it if someone else paid to fix all their problems. It doesn't work so well. So we need to make sure that we're continuing to work with our partners. We need to make sure that even when occasionally we don't agree, that we still continue to work together. So that, for example, I think the Sellwood Bridge can provide an example of that. We know that there were some partnerships there that we don't love how it all played out, but that doesn't mean we can't work together on the next thing, because we have to. We have to act like adults, and even when we have disagreements or don't all see things the same way, we need to be able to come together the next day and work on the next challenge together.
Steve Novak, City Club member. Mr. Chair, we do have a wonderful library system, but that system has, in my view, a persistent flaw, which is that whoever picks the Everybody Reads book seems to always think that all Multnomah County residents want to read are books about disease, tragedy, and destruction. Could you suggest to the library that some year we might all want to read, let's say, an instant nonfiction classic such as Jeff Mapes' Pedaling Revolution about the bicycle transportation revolution, or an old fiction classic such as A Wizard of Earthsea by our own Ursula Le Guin?
Good points, and I will say that the woman who makes those choices is right there, and I see she's taking notes. Bailey Elke, our library director. So you came to the right place.
Steve Arnold, City Club member and social worker. Considering the long, difficult history of our serious problems with mental health services paid for by the county, as documented by City Club, we have how have we worked on improving the quality of mental health services oversight, especially the oversight of the management of our contractors who provide these services?
Well, it's certainly the case that our mental health system is not where we'd like it to be. And I know that when the City Club did a report on it, they identified some challenges in the budgeting piece of things, and that's something that we're working to address when we develop because we have a new budget software system that's coming in next year, and we're hoping to make progress on that. This year, the biggest improvements we made to our mental health system had to do with direct services for people in the community, the biggest piece of which was the Mental Health Crisis Assessment Center that I talked about earlier. That's a huge new service that wasn't available before, and it's one that actually is directly responsive to one of the biggest problems we have with our mental health system, which is that people who are mentally ill who get into a crisis all too often wind up in very tragic interactions with the law. when they shouldn't be, when they're just sick people who need help. And so what we're trying to do is make it more able for us to deal with mental health crisis in a humane, compassionate, and medical way. And that's the direction I hope we continue to go.
Thank you. Debbie Lynn Molyneux, City Club member and also Executive Director for Coffee Party USA. And my question has to do with civic participation. And given that we are the government that we have representing us, what participation can the people of Multnomah County and surrounding counties do to help the county provide the services that we also need, and what are the pathways to do so?
Great question. Well, one very easy way, we have at Multnomah County something called the Citizen Involvement Committee, which has its own website and which exists specifically to connect people into the county, people who want to volunteer. And that includes whether you want to volunteer at the sort of policy level by doing budget oversight and those kinds of things, or you want to volunteer, as many people do, by helping out at animal control or at the library. And so that is one way you can access right there. There's also ways in which we work with the community. So, for example, I told you earlier about our County Crops Farm, which is this really cool project where we have this land that was basically surplus, and now people are farming it. It's almost entirely volunteers. And the way volunteers get connected to that is through our partnership with a really great volunteer service organization locally called Hands on Greater Portland. And Hands on Greater Portland operates a website where they list various projects. And anyone in this community who says, gee, I want to do some good stuff, just go to their website, handsongreaterportland.org, and it lists lots of projects. The most important ones, of course, are the Multnomah County projects, but some people might want to do others as well. And so if you wanted to, it's springtime now, if you want to get your hands dirty, growing food to help your hungry neighbors, go to the Hands on Portland website, and they'll connect you to our County Crops Farm, and you can make a real difference. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. We're out of time for further questions. We'll have to stop. We hope you'll all join us next week when we'll have a debate between City Council candidates Amanda Fritz and Mary Nolan. We invite City Club's Leadership Circle members to join us down in the fireside room in the second floor for the after event with our speaker. And as we close for today, please join me in offering our sincere thanks to our speaker for all he does for our community's needs, Chair Jeff Cogan. Thank you. We are adjourned.